My rich husband sneered, "Go ahead, walk away," so I left the keys on his marble counter. The next morning, his dad and boss were blowing up my phone. Then the bank started calling him Nonstop. Now he's pale and whispering, "What did you do to me?" I was standing in the middle of that cavernous kitchen in Westport, Connecticut, the marble counters colder than the look on my husband's face, when he said it. "Go ahead, walk away. You wouldn't last a week without me." He said it like a dare, like he owned the oxygen in the room and I used too much of it. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't negotiate. I just reached into my bag, pulled out the house keys, his house, as he liked to remind me, and set them on the counter with a soft metallic clatter. His smirk faded for the first time all year. He opened his mouth to speak again, probably to take the words back, but I was already walking out the door, not even bothering to close it behind me. The air was too tight in there. I spent the night on the pull-out couch at my sister's tiny place in Norwalk. No luggage, no plan, just this strange calm settling over me. I slept harder than I had in months. The next morning, my phone started buzzing at 6:12 am. I ignored it. 10 minutes later, it rang again. Then again. When I finally looked, I nearly dropped the phone. 15 missed calls, his boss. 9 from his father. 5 from unknown numbers I recognized as the bank's local branch. At first, I thought someone had died, or he had done something catastrophic in a panic. But then the texts rolled in. From his father, "Call me immediately. This is urgent." From his boss, "We need clarification now, do not delay." From the bank, "This is an important matter regarding your accounts. Please contact us as soon as possible." Your accounts. When I left that house yesterday, I had maybe $480 to my name. My husband, Daniel, had always insisted on handling everything, every bill, every statement, every login. He said he was protecting me from stress. If I wanted to buy something, I used the credit card with my name on it but tied to his account. I didn't have the authority to touch the big stuff. At least, that's what he had always said. So when the bank said my accounts, something twisted in my chest. I didn't call anyone back. I just sat there on my sister's couch, legs curled up, phone buzzing nonstop in my hand. By 8:30 am, Daniel finally texted. Short, panicked. "What did you do?" Then another. "You need to come home. Now." Home. Funny how fast the definition shifts. I didn't answer. I could practically see him pacing that house, flinging open drawers, checking files, calling his assistant, tearing apart whatever illusion of control he thought he had. At 9:04 am, his father called again. This time he left a voicemail. I wasn't going to listen to it, but something in my stomach told me I needed to. His voice came through, shaky, furious, scared all at once. "Call me the moment you get this. Daniel informed us of the situation, but the numbers don't make sense. The transfers, they shouldn't have been possible. We need to know exactly what part you played, because right now it looks like..." The message cut off. Transfers, numbers, shouldn't have been possible. The room spun. Because I hadn't transferred a damn thing. And if I didn't, someone wanted it to look like I did. And someone was about to learn I wasn't the helpless little ornament they had spent years mistaking me for. At 9:17 am, the bank called again. This time they left a message too. And the last sentence made my blood run cold. "We need to verify your authorization on the $2.4 million movement initiated under your credentials." The voicemail kept replaying in my head. Your authorization, $2.4 million movement. I didn't have $2.4 million. I didn't have $40 without checking my bank app twice. But the more I sat there on my sister's worn gray couch, staring at the wall like it might offer answers, the more the pieces of the past began slotting together, one ugly click at a time. Because Daniel had been preparing for something, I just hadn't understood it. We met 5 years ago in Stamford. I was a leasing agent showing luxury apartments. He came in wearing a tailored navy suit and that impatient look of someone accustomed to getting discounts just for existing. But he softened when he talked to me, at least that's what I thought then. He said he admired my independence, said he loved that I didn't need anything from him. I mistook that for respect instead of the warning it was. The first red flag came a year into our marriage. I had asked about setting up a joint emergency fund, just something small with both our names. Daniel sighed like I'd insulted him. "You know I manage all that," he said. When I pushed, gently he snapped. "Why do you need access? Don't you trust me?" I backed off. I'd learned growing up in Bridgeport how quickly anger can turn a kitchen into a minefield. My father used to slam cabinets when stressed, and my mother's silence would stretch for days. I learned to de-escalate before I learned how to ride a bike. Another piece now rattled into place. Right after that argument, Daniel surprised me with a brand new SUV, just because. I didn't see it for what it was, leverage disguised as love. Every gift after that, every vacation he planned without asking my schedule, every expense he insisted on covering, was another knot sliding around my independence. The second red flag was quieter but sharper. About 2 years in, I noticed his father, Richard, watched me like I was a vase someone placed too close to the edge. He'd ask strange questions at family dinners in Greenwich. "You don't have any debt, do you? You're not supporting anyone financially. Your credit score is stable." And once, when he thought I wasn't close enough to hear, "She's clean, that's good. Keep her that way." I'd brushed it off as rich people paranoia, a world where every relationship is an asset or a liability. I didn't realize I was being evaluated, categorized, positioned. The third red flag came last winter. Daniel insisted I sign a stack of routine updates to our financial documents. He rushed me through it, kept the pages moving, kept talking over my questions. "It's just tax stuff. Normal. Everyone does this." I didn't understand the forms, and that embarrassed me. So instead of slowing down, I signed where he pointed because I didn't want to look stupid. I felt the same twisting shame I'd felt at 16, filling out FAFSA forms alone in our dark kitchen, because my mom was working a double shift, and I didn't know what half the words meant. I'd promised myself I'd never let anyone make me feel ignorant again, but Daniel had done it so gently I mistook it for guidance. Only now, staring at those missed calls, did I understand the trap. He needed my signature on something. He needed me on paper. He needed me implicated. And the truth hit me like cold water. Daniel hadn't challenged me to leave because he thought I couldn't survive without him. He challenged me because he didn't expect me to leave at all. I wasn't supposed to walk away before he finished whatever he had set up. And if $2.4 million was missing, it meant the setup was already in motion. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. "We need to confirm whether you intend to press charges against your husband." The text about pressing charges sat on my screen like a lit fuse. I didn't answer. Not because I was afraid, but because I didn't yet understand the battlefield. And walking into a fight blind was exactly how Daniel wanted me. By noon, I'd showered, borrowed a clean shirt from my sister, and tied my hair back so tight it felt like armor. I wasn't thinking about reconciliation or explanations. I was thinking about survival, about clarity, about how easily a woman can disappear into the shadow of a man's financial power. I walked to the Norwalk Public Library because I knew Daniel didn't track my library card. He tracked everything else: my phone location, my shopping habits, the little spending notations he pretended were organizational. But he wouldn't expect me to go somewhere analog, somewhere he couldn't monitor. I sat at one of the older desktop computers, the ones with sluggish keyboards and screens that flickered at the edges. The library was quiet, just the hum of the HVAC and a kid whispering at his dad over a worksheet. It felt safe in a way I hadn't felt in years. I typed my name into the state's public records search. It felt ridiculous at first. What could possibly show up? But then the screen loaded. 5 filings. 5 documents with my digital signature attached. The first 2 were predictable, routine address updates. The third was a joint tax submission. But the last 2, the fourth document, was something called a marital financial consolidation authorization. It stated that I had agreed, willingly, to merge all existing and future marital assets under my name for streamlined management. My name. Not Daniel's. Mine. And the fifth filing was the real gut punch: a transfer authorization allowing the movement of liquid marital assets from a joint holding account into a personal account, also under my name. The date on that document? 8 months ago. I hadn't signed anything 8 months ago, not digitally, not physically. I remembered exactly where I was 8 months ago, hosting my niece's birthday party, cutting cake with my hands still numb from the cold March air. No paperwork involved. A wave of nausea rolled through me. Daniel had done this, or someone he'd hired. Someone who could fake a signature well enough to fool a bank. But the more I stared at the screen, the harder another truth dropped into place. Whatever he was doing, he wasn't doing it alone. His father's voice echoed in my mind, "She's clean. That's good." Clean. Meaning I had no financial history that would muddy a transfer. Meaning my spotless record made me the perfect fall guy. My throat tightened. They weren't stealing from me. They were stealing through me. And I'd walked out at the exact wrong moment, right when he needed me present, compliant, easily positioned. I printed everything the library computer would let me. The printer jammed twice, and I smacked the side of the machine with more force than necessary. It wasn't about the machine. It was everything, years of being softened, trained, positioned without even realizing it. I shoved the papers into a manila folder the librarian gave me and stepped back outside into the cold afternoon. For the first time since leaving the house, I felt my chest expand. Not with panic, with purpose. If Daniel wanted a helpless wife, he should have picked someone else. Because once I see the shape of a trap, I don't step around it, I dismantle it. I walked to the bus stop, folder clutched to my chest, planning, not rage-driven. Not impulsive. Clear. Focused. And that clarity started stitching together a plan I hadn't realized I'd been building my whole life, every time I'd been underestimated. Every time someone mistook quiet for weak. At 3:42 p.m., as I waited for the bus, my phone vibrated with a single message from a number I didn't recognize. "We need to meet. There's something you don't know about your husband and about the money." The message came from a number with no name attached, no prior thread, just that single line. "We need to meet. There's something you don't know about your husband and about the money." My first instinct was suspicion. My second was that cold, electric awareness that the story I thought I was in had just split open. I texted back one word, "Where?" The reply came instantly. "Harborview Coffee, 30 minutes, come alone." Harborview was in South Norwalk, a place Daniel never went. Too gritty, he used to say, which always meant too normal for his curated lifestyle. If someone wanted to corner me, though, it was a public place. Lots of people. Cameras. That made me feel safer than I probably should have. I got off the bus 2 stops early and walked the rest of the way. My heart was beating steady, not fast, not panicked, but like it was pacing itself for something I couldn't name yet. The coffee shop was half full, grad students with laptops, a couple arguing quietly in a corner, the smell of burnt espresso sitting low in the air. I scanned the room. Then a woman near the back raised her hand slightly when she saw me look around. Mid-30s, hair pinned back carelessly, dark circles like she hadn't slept in days. She looked familiar in a way I couldn't place. "You're Emily, right?" she said when I approached. I froze. "Who are you?" "My name is Sophia." The name hit like a shove. Daniel had mentioned a Sophia once, a financial analyst at his company. The same analyst he made fun of for being too ethical to climb the ladder. "What do you want?" I asked. She slid a folder across the table. "I don't have much time. And once I tell you this, there's no pretending you didn't hear it." I didn't sit. I just opened the folder. Inside were internal emails, transaction logs, screenshots of access permissions for accounts Daniel wasn't supposed to touch. Everything was color-coded, dates highlighted, names circled, and some of those names were mine. "I've been tracking irregularities in the firm's asset pool for months," Sophia said. "Small amounts at first, then larger patterns. Transfers routed through shell accounts. But the unusual part was that all of it was being funneled toward a personal account set up in your name." I looked up sharply. "I didn't set up any account." "I know," she said quietly. "That's why I'm here." My pulse finally sped up. "Then why would he?" "Because Daniel is about to be exposed," she interrupted. "There's a federal audit coming. Someone higher up flagged concerns about your father-in-law's fund allocation practices. They think Daniel is the weak link, and he is." I blinked. "So he forged my signature to make me look like the one moving the money, not just forged it." Her voice softened into something like pity. "Emily, he used biometric authorization." I felt the words before I fully understood them. Sophia continued, "Your digital signature didn't come from a typed form. It came from your actual biometric profile. Facial recognition and voice verification." My knees nearly buckled. I pulled out the chair and sat slowly. "When? How?" "Any video where you said your full name clearly," she said. "Any time you unlocked a device. Any instance where your voice or face was captured with enough clarity. With the right tools, it's not hard to synthesize." Cold spread through my limbs. All those times Daniel recorded videos of us for memories. All those home security cameras he insisted we install. All the voice-controlled devices he set up all under his account. He wasn't archiving our life. He was collecting credentials. Sophia leaned in. He's not planning to frame you for theft. He's planning to disappear. My breath caught. What? He's been moving assets quietly into off-record accounts, she said. Not just money, information, access keys, proprietary data. And if the audit lands, his father goes down. And Daniel goes down with him. So he leaves the country, I whispered, and leaves you holding the legal bag. The world shrank into a single, piercing point of clarity. He hadn't underestimated me. He'd erased me, turned me into a ghost through which he could vanish. Then Sophia said the final blow. He already booked a one-way flight to Buenos Aires, under your name. For a long moment, I just stared at Sophia, my fingers tightening around the edge of the folder until the paper bent. A flight booked under my name, my passport tied to a crime I didn't commit, my biometric signature threaded into every fraudulent transfer, and the clock already running. He's leaving tomorrow morning, Sophia added. 6:15 a.m. flight out of JFK. If he makes it to Argentina, he disappears into a financial system his father has been using for years. No extradition risk. No paper trail. And you get arrested the moment I don't show up for a flight I never booked, I finished, my voice flat, steady, terrifying even to me. Sophia nodded once. I don't know you, and honestly I shouldn't be here. But I couldn't let him do this, not again. Again. She didn't explain and I didn't ask. It wasn't the moment. Instead, I closed the folder, stood up and felt the shift inside me, like steel replacing bone. I had spent years shrinking myself to avoid conflict. Years smoothing over tension, telling myself that being agreeable was the same as being loved. But now I saw the truth clearly. Compliance is a cage that looks like comfort until the door slams shut. I walked out of the coffee shop with a plan already forming, sharp and clean. First step, control the narrative before Daniel does. I headed back to the library, this time straight to the legal section, where two high schoolers were whispering over a civics homework sheet. I ignored the looks and pulled out my phone. The unknown number that had asked about pressing charges, I called it back. A woman answered on the second ring. This is Agent Marlowe with the Financial Crimes Division. I didn't let myself hesitate. I want to report identity fraud, document forgery, and unauthorized biometric use, I said. And I want to do it before anyone tries to blame me for anything. A beat of silence. Then, we've been expecting your call. Her tone made it clear she couldn't say more over the phone, but she set up a meeting for early evening. Neutral ground, government building, cameras, witnesses, everything Daniel didn't want. That was step 1. Step 2, secure proof he couldn't manipulate. I spent the next hour scanning every document Sophia had given me, plus everything I'd printed earlier. I uploaded it all to a brand new encrypted cloud drive under an alias he couldn't trace. Then I printed duplicates and stored them in 3 separate envelopes. One for the agent, one for a lawyer, one for someone else I hadn't decided on yet. Every time the printer spit out another sheet, I imagined Daniel's face when he realized the wife he'd counted on to crumble had gone rigid instead. Step 3, force his hand before he forced mine. Because here was the ethical struggle, the part that tasted bitter even as I accepted it. If I confronted him too early, he'd bury whatever was left. If I waited too long, he'd escape and leave me ruined. So the only choice was to weaponize the one thing he never expected me to use, my absence. He needed me silent, reachable, compliant. I was going to be none of those things. Instead, I sent him a single message. We need to talk, tonight, same place we met. Not the apartment, not a restaurant. The leasing office in Stamford where he first walked into my life wearing that arrogant suit. A place soaked in the version of me he thought he had successfully reshaped. A place where I would now dismantle him. I knew he'd come. He wouldn't be able to resist the chance to redirect, manipulate, dominate. He needed control too badly. But I wouldn't be showing up to plead. I'd be showing up with leverage. And with one final move that would make everything collapse beneath him. At 5:52 p.m., just as the sun was cutting gold light across the sidewalk, Sophia texted me again. There's something else I didn't tell you. Something you need to know before you face him. Sophia's text stopped me mid-stride. There's something else I didn't tell you. I should have expected that. People like Daniel never operate with just one layer of deception. There's always a deeper rot beneath the surface. Still, something in the phrasing made my throat tighten. I ducked into a quiet alcove between two closed storefronts and called her. She answered immediately. No greeting, just, "Emily, you're not the only one he set up." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" There was a breath on the other end, shaky enough that I realized she'd been holding it for hours. "I kept digging today after our meeting. I shouldn't have, but I did. And I found out why your name was chosen. Why all the transfers were routed through your credentials. I thought it was because I was clean, no debt, no complications. That's part of it," she said, "but the real reason is worse, much worse." I pressed my back against the brick wall. "Just tell me." "Your social security number appears on internal documents dated before you even met Daniel." The air left my lungs like a punch. "That's impossible." "I'm telling you what I saw," she whispered. "Their family, his father's firm, had your identity years before you ever walked into that leasing office." My vision blurred for a second. "Why would they have anything connected to me?" "That's the part that doesn't make sense, unless," she hesitated, "unless they targeted you." I felt the world narrow into a single echoing beat of my heart. Sophia pushed on. "Emily, someone ran a background file on you while you were still working at the leasing office. Months before Daniel showed up as a walk-in. He didn't stumble onto you, you were selected." My mouth went dry. "Selected for what?" "For this," she said. "For being the exit door. You were always the planned identity, the scapegoat. Someone with no complicated history, no entanglements, no family money trails that could interfere. They groomed you into the role." I didn't respond. I couldn't. The silence stretched, heavy and electric. "Emily," Sophia said softly. "I'm here," I finally managed. And the truth slammed into me. "He married me for my clean record. He built a life with me because I made the perfect landing pad for a crime. He needed a fall person who wouldn't fight back," she said quietly. "Your personality wasn't an accident either. They knew your tendencies, your history, how you avoid conflict, how you respond to pressure. They groomed you to stay quiet." Something inside me snapped in two, not emotionally, strategically. A shift from confusion into something razor-sharp. "Sophia," I said, "are you safe?" She hesitated. "I don't know." "Then listen carefully." My voice came out low, steady. "This isn't just about clearing my name anymore. This is about exposing exactly how far they went." There was a shuffling sound, like she was pacing. "There's one more thing." "What now?" "He's not just leaving tomorrow," she said. "There's a secondary transfer scheduled overnight. Midnight, a massive one. And if it goes through, the system will lock the account and generate a federal alert tied to the primary credential holder." "Which is me." "Yes." "What's the amount?" 7.9 million. My pulse spiked. "And that's not the worst part," she added. "The destination account isn't in Argentina. It's in the Caymans, an account already red-flagged for international laundering." Meaning that by sunrise, I wouldn't just look guilty. I would look global crime syndicate guilty. I pressed a hand over my mouth. The Stamford meeting with Daniel tonight wasn't a confrontation anymore. It was a countdown. A race against a man who was already halfway out the door and a family willing to burn me alive to protect themselves. Sophia's voice cracked. "I'm sending you the transfer timer. You need to act before midnight." The message came through, a screenshot of the pending transfer with a live countdown. 5 hours, 58 minutes. Everything in me stilled, cold, clean clarity. They had chosen me expecting compliance. They hadn't prepared for resistance. Then Sophia said something that froze my blood solid. "Emily, one of the authorization keys used for the Cayman's account. It wasn't forged. It came from someone very close to you." I felt the words before I fully processed them. "It came from someone very close to you." My hand tightened around the phone until my fingers throbbed. "Who?" I whispered. Sophia didn't answer right away. I could hear her breathing, thin, uneven, like she hated what she was about to say. "Emily, the secondary authorization key wasn't from Daniel. It wasn't even from his father." A beat. "It was your sister's." For a moment the world went quiet, no traffic, no cold air, no distant voices. Just a hollow ringing inside my skull. "That doesn't make sense," I said finally, but it came out cracked. "She barely understands how to set up online banking. She can't be involved in something like this." "She didn't generate the key," Sophia said carefully. but one of her devices signed an access request, a phone registered under her name. That means either someone used her identity or she knowingly signed into a system connected to the transfers. My stomach dropped. My sister, Anna, the only person who helped me move into Daniel's house, who let me cry in her small apartment when I felt trapped, who took me in the moment I walked out. No, I said again. You're wrong. I wish I were, Sophia murmured. But the logs match. Her credential was used 2 months ago. That's how the Cayman's account was tied to you. The system needed 2 clean IDs to create a layered profile, one to anchor the account and one to mask the movement. Why her? I whispered. Because her credit is spotless. No bankruptcy, no missed payments, no criminal record, just like you. My knees weakened, and I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the concrete. The cold seeped through my jeans, grounding me, but the spinning wouldn't stop. Emily, Sophia hesitated. There's more. Just say it. I looked at the access logs. Your sister's phone unlocked the portal at the exact same time Daniel was in Bridgeport for that client meeting last May. She paused. Do you remember him going there? Yes, I remembered. He came home late, smelling like overpriced cologne and confidence. He said the client was a headache and he needed a shower before dinner. But now the pieces rearranged into something sickening. He was meeting Anna, and she had signed something. My throat tightened until I had to force air through it. Are you saying he manipulated her? I'm saying he used her, Sophia replied softly. Maybe with charm, maybe with intimidation, maybe with something else. She paused. But Emily, he didn't choose you by accident, and he didn't choose her by accident either. A numbness spread through me. I pictured Anna stressed, exhausted, always desperate to keep up with bills even though she worked 2 jobs. She never accepted money from me, even when I offered. Too proud. Too stubborn. Daniel must have seen that. He must have studied that, just like he studied me. Why would he go this far? I asked, my voice barely audible. Why would anyone plan something this elaborate around an exit scam? Sophia exhaled. Because Daniel isn't just running from a federal audit. He's running from a family implosion. His father's firm is collapsing. Investors are withdrawing. There's about to be a reckoning. And Daniel, spoiled, reckless, terrified Daniel, knows he's not built for prison. I closed my eyes. Of course. He wasn't building a future. He was escaping the consequences of his past. He married you, Sophia said, her tone dropping into something dark, because you were the perfect liability shield. He involved your sister because he needed a second clean ID he could pressure without drawing attention. This whole "you wouldn't last a week without me" line, she scoffed. That wasn't confidence, that was fear. You were drifting from his control, too independent, too strong, and if you left before he finished this, his plan collapsed. A cold understanding settled into my bones. Daniel didn't love me. He selected me. He crafted a life around my blind spots. He positioned every move so that when he vanished, I'd be the one swallowed whole. And my sister, he'd used her as collateral. The dread turned into something sharper, cleaner. I wasn't confronting Daniel tonight for closure. I was confronting him because I finally understood the shape of the monster I was about to strike. Sophia's last words cut through the static in my head. If you don't stop him before midnight, Emily, you won't just lose your freedom, you'll lose your sister too. The Stamford leasing office looked smaller than I remembered, brighter lights, newer furniture, fresh paint. But the moment I stepped inside, something old and tight pulled across my chest. This was where Daniel had first smiled at me like I was a solution he'd finally located. I didn't know then that he wasn't choosing me as a partner. He was choosing me as a shield. I sat in one of the glass-walled conference rooms, lights dimmed, my manila folder open on the table like evidence laid out for a jury. I had 40 minutes until midnight. 40 minutes until the $7.9 million transfer triggered an alert that would brand me an international criminal. And less than 12 hours until a flight to Buenos Aires was taken under my name. I wasn't going to give him either. At 11:06 p.m., Daniel walked in. He looked irritated, rushed, jaw clenched, tie loosened, coat half-buttoned like he'd thrown it on in motion. But his eyes still held that sharp gleam he always got when he thought he was regaining control. "Emily," he said, forcing a strained calm, "we don't have time for theatrics. You've caused enough damage today." I leaned back. "Sit." He bristled at the command, and for the first time I saw something I'd never allowed myself to recognize until now. He wasn't strong. He was spoiled. Fragile, built on borrowed stability. He sat anyway. I slid the first set of documents toward him, proof of the forged biometric authorizations, screenshots of the shadow accounts, the flight reservation under my name. His confidence wavered, but he masked it quickly. "This is nonsense," he said. "You've been manipulated. Someone's feeding you fabricated data." "Sophia says hello," I said. His entire face froze. A perfect stillness, like a predator caught hearing its own trap spring shut. "You think she's trustworthy?" he scoffed. "You think she's not just covering her own ass?" I opened the next folder. "Let's try something else then." I pulled out the page showing the access signature created from my sister's device. He blinked once, twice, too controlled. "You used Anna," I said quietly. "You approached her, pressured her, maybe promised her something, maybe threatened something, but you used her." Daniel laughed, a brittle sound with no real amusement. "Your sister was an easy mark. Do you think she didn't ask for help? She practically volunteered once she realized she'd get paid." My stomach twisted. I wanted to scream at him to deny it, but I held the line. I held it because I'd learned enough these past 24 hours to understand. He wanted emotional chaos. He thrived on it. It was the only terrain where he believed he could win. Instead, I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. "I recorded this conversation," I said. His smile cracked. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" I'd started recording the moment he walked in. Everything he said, including calling my sister an easy mark, was saved, encrypted, backed up to 3 locations. But the real strike wasn't the recording. The real strike was the live connection on the call. I turned the screen toward him. Agent Marlowe's name glowed bright. Daniel's breath left his body like something had punched it out of him. "You called the feds," he whispered. "No," I said. "I invited them." I tapped the speaker icon. "Agent Marlowe, you got all of that?" Her voice echoed through the room. "Every word, we're 5 minutes out." Daniel shot to his feet. "Emily, think you don't know what you're getting into. My father." "Your father," I cut in, "is already being interviewed. Sophia turned over everything, and the midnight transfer, consider it canceled." He went pale. "How?" I stood, gathering my folders, my bags, my evidence. "Because your entire plan required me to stay quiet." He lunged toward the door, but the lobby lights outside flashed red-blue as agents swarmed the building. Daniel froze, for the first time truly afraid. I stepped past him, stopping just long enough to deliver the final truth he deserved. "I survived the week, Daniel, you didn't." When I reached the lobby, agents moved past me, voices firm, purposeful. I didn't look back when they cuffed him. I didn't need to. Outside, the cold air hit me like rebirth. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like aftermath, a long, quiet place you land after walking through fire. My sister cried when I told her everything. She hadn't known what she'd signed, only that a friend of mine needed her help with a secure login. She apologized until her voice cracked. I just held her. Tomorrow would be lawyers, statements, media storms, cleanup. But tonight was still mine. I walked to the curb, pulled in a slow breath, and let the last thought settle like a final line in a closed book. He built a life around my silence. He never planned for my voice. And now he gets to hear it in every courtroom he enters.